Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. The following readings are from the Bible and the Bhagavad Gita. Each week we read from both scriptures as prescribed by Yoganandaji and by his guru, Sri Yukteswarji, who was guided by Babaji to compare the two scriptures to show the same underlying truths between them. Does Satan exist? Truth is one and eternal. Realize oneness with it in your deathless self within. The Bible tells us in chapter 4 of the Gospel of St. Matthew, then after baptism was Jesus led up to the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted by the devil. To most modern minds, this passage seems quaintly obsolete. Psychologists would say, have said, in fact, that the temptation of Christ, if it occurred at all, was purely psychological. They call it a projection of desires lurking in his own subconscious mind. The subconscious plays a strong part, certainly, even if not a unique one, in any testing the spiritual seeker must undergo. The Bhagavad Gita, in dealing with this undeniable reality, quotes Arjuna in the 3rd chapter, and then Sri Krishna's reply. You tell me, teacher, said Arjuna, by what force doth man go to his ill unwilling, as if one pushed him in that path? Krishna replied, desire it is, passion it is, born of the darkness, which pushes him, mighty of appetite, sinful and strong in this, man's enemy. Yet even Krishna describes passion as born of the darkness. The fact is, as Paramahansa Yogananda wrote in Autobiography of a Yogi, all thoughts vibrate eternally in the cosmos. Thoughts are universally and not individually rooted. A truth cannot be created, but only perceived. Psychology, yes, but psychology attuned to currents of consciousness that pervade the entire universe, attracted by each of us according to our own personal inclinations. Yoganandaji quoted in the path, said, I used to think Satan was only a human invention, but now I know, and add my testimony to that of others who lived before me, that Satan is a reality. He is a universal, conscious force whose sole aim is to keep all things bound to the wheel of delusion. We should take pains, then, to attract uplifting currents of universal consciousness, to avoid attracting the negative, which, disease that it is, can infect our thoughts even while it leads us to believe that our thoughts are purely our own. Thus, through Holy Scripture, God has spoken to mankind. Om, Om, Om.
I'd like to begin with a reading from Whispers from Eternity by Paramahansa Yogananda, a book of prayer poems. This is Demand for Prosperity. Thou art my Father, I am thy child. Thou art the Supreme Spirit, I am made in thine image. Thou art the Father, owner of the whole universe. I, good or naughty, am thy child, and when I behave, I have the right of possession over all that is thine. Alas, I have played the truant, wandering away from thy home of cosmic plenty. Lead me home again. Teach me to identify my highest interests with thy will. Rescue me from this shipwreck on the tiny island of my body. Expand my consciousness. Help me to understand once more that I am made in thy image. When, by thy grace, I discover that I, like thee, am omnipresent, then at last shall I have true dominion over all things, even as thou hast. This topic is such an important one. I notice I tend to say that every week, but it's true every week. It's funny, too, because this topic, when we had planned our Spiritual Renewal Week, which we had recently, and many of you have participated in it online, but when we had it later in the year. Originally, when Swamiji started it, it was almost even into September, also representing a celebration of the autumnal equinox. And Sri Yukteswar had celebrations at that time as well, and it's a good time to go inward. And then it sort of started receding in the calendar, and in our time at Ananda, it was always in August. And then for Ananda's 50th anniversary, it was seen that it was such a nice thing to celebrate in July, rather than in August. It's not quite as hot at Ananda Village and so on. So anyway, but for all those years, on this day, Spiritual Renewal Week would inevitably fall, so that the Sunday reading was, Does Satan Exist? And it was always a little bit of a, at the end of Spiritual Renewal Week, just like, can we like skip this one? But that's part of the whole trick, is how do we fight these battles, which are very real? These things come up in us, that there's the element of focusing on the darkness, which that wonderful song that we just sang, yes, it's devil worship, that was so perfect. Because not only does Swamiji touch on things that happen everywhere, where people will just focus on negativity, but he gives it the light touch. But you see, even then, his teaching, not his teaching, but a teaching could be, stop being negative. Don't be angry. It's just ridiculous. You can't say it with anger. You can't say it with negativity. What's the matter with you? Always being upset. That criticism is just as negative. As he said, can anger drive out sorrow, and can passion conquer pain? No, calmness, relaxation, feeling peace. These are the antidotes. So people, we can't approach it in that way either. But Swamiji could have just said, don't do these things, or ha ha ha, and then left it at that. But he has that beautiful line, as true in all of his songs, the answer is also there. Every time I hear it, I just think this is just the mantra for life. Brother, have you ever wondered why the darkness lingers on? I mean, we often find that in our lives, that here it was, I had this great realization, and I'm not going to be upset about that situation anymore, and then the next morning, and I'm sad about the same thing again, and I don't even realize. It takes me an hour or two to discover that in the back of my mind is that same thought. I just didn't like how that went. And so, have you ever wondered why the darkness lingers on? If we want to see the sunrise, let us turn and face the dawn. And it is just the perfect thing to remember in any time we're kind of feeling down. Just, do we want to see the sunrise? Then let us turn and face the dawn. That's it. It's as hard as going, I guess this way is east. Which coast am I on? Which direction is east? Just turn to the east. That's it. And so it's just something to always, it's within our control also. He doesn't say if you want to see the sunrise, pray and pray and pray harder, and if you're lucky, the sun may rise. It will rise. And all we have to do is be facing it. So it's always a question of which way we're facing. And, it's wonderful how Arjuna says, what is it that drives a person against his will in the wrong direction? It's one thing if you say, why are they attracted to do the wrong thing? And we can talk about Maya and all these things, and basically everybody learns their lessons over time because they find that thing that was so attractive in the end, it doesn't work, or it makes us sick. The first dosa was great, the second dosa was great, the 800th dosa, I fainted. And you may think, nobody eats 800 dosas, but I tried once. It was actually the day I discovered paneer dosa. Someone made it for me in Trivandrum. I ate so much that I thought afterwards, this might have been my last supper. Because I was lying on the couch. I didn't know that these things expand afterwards. I was a child, but it just, oh my gosh, I thought I was going to pop. And So it's just then all that pain, was it worth it? Couldn't I have had 7 instead of 8? And so that we realize that these things that are so tempting end up causing pain too. And so you could say in a way that, as I said, Arjuna says, what drives us against our will when we know better? And we do have this thought, look, I know I should hold back from this, or I know I should do some of this, but not too much, or I'm trying so hard not to lose my cool, and then, that what is it that does that? Because I don't want to, and somehow yet I still do it. And so it's so compassionate in a way that Arjuna says, what drives us against our will? And so Krishna says desire it is, and evil it is, and he says basically it's the darkness. There is a force that does this. Now some people say, no, there's no darkness. You just, it's your own psychological issues, and you sort of get out of the blame by saying, oh, it's not me, it's the darkness. Of course, it's possible to make that argument, but anytime we do, sort of Maya and the devil are thrilled, just like, yes, blame someone else. Because there is that. On the first level of manifestation, you could say, on a tamasic level, whether it's a person whose energy is primarily tamasic, which is to say sleepy, you can think of tamas as it's heavy, yes, it's inert, but it's also sleepy. It's a gentler way to think of it. In Ananda Village's school, they were teaching the children about the gunas because we were studying Indian philosophy that particular year. It's not that the school, teaches Indian philosophy as a part of it all the time, but this particular year it was a subject. And the second grade teacher was describing tamoguna as the sleepy guna. And at that time, there was a girl who was sitting in the room, but she was actually happening to fall asleep right at that time. She'd had kind of a difficult night. And so when he said it's the sleepy guna, the kid started giggling and looking at her, and she said, "Hey, I am not a sleepy tuna." And so the sleepy guna, it tends to just, wants to leave me alone, and so on. So Maya works on that level and just says, yes, do sleep. It's okay. It's fine. Don't worry if that happens. Someone else will take care of you. Just rest. Now, over and over and always, I want to do this. Well, but on the other hand, you've been working so hard. Master said this even happened to him. He'd worked really hard that day. He was about to meditate, and he just started falling asleep. And he heard a voice say, "You've worked so hard, poor boy. Look out for your health. Don't meditate. You can't do it this time." And he said he could feel that force trying to convince him, and he pushed it away and said, "Never." And he went on and then had a great meditation. But that voice that says, it's okay to rest. Now, you have to understand, sometimes you do have to rest. But anyway, leave that aside. I'm saying for a whole lifetime. Just don't even bother. Master used the wonderful phrase, well, fine, then sleep well and die. Now, you can think of that as, whoa, it's pretty harsh. But, what happens after you die? Then we're born again. In Aura. I love how that Swamiji in Living Wisely, Living Well, he said that don't be afraid of death. At another time, the reason he gave to not be afraid of death, he said, think of how many times you've died already. And here we are. So, what does it even mean? It's just, and this is the point to always remember, whenever anything seems too heavy, we can just keep going, and will keep going, and everyone will keep going until we merge in God. This life, next life, life after that, everyone. Somebody who hates spirituality, hates God, hates truth, I just want cash, they will find God eventually. So on one level you can say it's very compassionate, because everybody is heading into the light, ultimately. No one is left behind. The challenge is just after a while, as Master writes in Autobiography of a Yogi, life without God takes on a sense of anguishing monotony. It's just the same thing over and over again. You may notice this if you focus on spiritual things and trying to keep yourself positive and facing the dawn, and then you meet someone whose very energy is very heavy. Either they're really negative or they're really materialistic, and you just sort of feel that kind of joy being threatened by that vibration. The only reality is that which you can hold, that which you can touch. Don't give me all that philosophy about the unseen, it's not real. And you start out bravely, and by the second hour of the argument, you kind of just want to either go and maybe take a nap. See, it's sleepy, it brings us down. So on the next level of, the next guna, you could say Rajoguna, Rajasic energy, Maya or Satan in one way manifests as temptation, desires, excitement. And let's do this, let's do that. I always want the next thing. I had that yesterday. I want something new. Keeping ourselves restless. Or someone who, again, not just ourselves, we have restless karma too, but even somebody whose energy is primarily restless. Better than sleepy, at least active, doing something. In these ways we make our discoveries, we learn. So anybody you know who's just too restless, always trying to find new things, be glad that they are making these new things, because in discovering these new things, in time they will make the discovery that, but I'm always tired afterwards. Or then I go back into, leave me alone, I've used up all my energy. Or I don't even have any energy to enjoy the ice cream. It might not seem possible, but it happened to me once. Just, I can't, I just have this fever, I just can't have the ice cream. But save it for when I get well. And so this restlessness, these desires, that manifests for us too as, I can't sit still right now, I have to get up and do something. Maybe I'll finish this work. Listen, the work is going to get finished one way or another, even in this lifetime. But we want to balance that with our inner work too. Because the restlessness of Maya will always say, no, not yet. Just do this one more thing, then. And then we come to Maya, or this darkness. How does it affect us on a sattvic level? And at first it could seem like, could it even affect us? Sattvic's pretty good, pretty still, pretty spiritual. You could think of sattva guna as the spiritualizing guna that takes us into God. But remember, if it's a guna, there's still a little bit of Maya. And I might be taking a little bit of a leap here philosophically, so I don't know. But I do know that the way Maya attacks spiritual people frequently is, you're no good. That thought. That anything. Swamiji said he was secluding in Rishikesh for a week one particular time. And one morning he sort of felt all these thoughts, or not quite a spoken voice, but just attacking him, saying, everything you've done in your life has amounted to nothing. And he bravely fought back against those thoughts, saying, first of all, anything anyone does amounts to nothing in the end, if you think of it all as God's dream, so who even cares? If I've been able to help even one person find more peace, I'm glad, I'm grateful, but in any case, it's Guru's work. Anything I've done has been for him, all these different things to push that thought back, and he said he succeeded. And then he, went on with the rest of his day, and the next morning it started all over again. And the whole week went by that way. Strange. And you may find that these thoughts come, and as it says in the reading, that the thoughts are universally, not individually rooted. Sometimes negativity will pass through and affect us, that negativity that isn't even ours. As Dharmini was saying last week, things going on in the world or something else happening to us, and the biggest trick that happens, and I wanted to reread this line, we should take pains then to attract uplifting currents of universal consciousness and to avoid attracting the negative, which, disease that it is, can infect our thoughts, even while it leads us to believe that our thoughts are purely our own. That's the trick. It says, no, there's no waves of consciousness. Don't be ridiculous. These are your thoughts only. It is your fault. And so, anytime these things are happening, we say, even if it is my own thought, who cares? Let me turn and face the dawn. I am where I am. I'm no better, and I'm no worse. See, that's the other problem. So if anything I've said, today, and you say, yeah, that's me. No, that is Satan. That is the darkness. Anything that can make us feel small. Working through the ego. Maya can work through the ego by saying, oh, you're better than you are. And you see people do that even on the spiritual path. I have had this intuition about you, and I feel inspired to tell you everything I see about you. Don't. Believe me, from personal experience, nobody likes it. You want to see, nothing can make a smile vanish faster from someone's face than to give them all these insights and advice and so on. Better just give them cookies. Something fun, something you can agree on. Over time, yes, if somebody comes to you and they ask, I've been suffering, I see you're not, or do you have anything to say? Even then, be very cautious. Because even though they may be expressing that they want to hear, you have to feel, do they really want to hear? And preserving the relationship is more important, because that keeping the person open to you is more important, especially if you live under the same roof, than just delivering the ultimate truth. I mentioned this recently, but it bears repeating. There was a woman who confronted Swamiji and said, tell me something that I need to grow. He said, no, it's okay, you're fine. No, everyone needs to grow. I know I need to grow. Give me a piece of advice on something I need to hear. He said, I'd really rather not, which of course, and she said, oh, no, you have to tell me. And so then he said to her something that he really had seen her struggling with and he hoped would help her. And he said, I'm sorry, I hope you're not upset. Not upset, just disappointed. And then she withdrew. And she didn't interact with him. She didn't come to any of his events when he would visit that country. It was in Italy. And then years later, she did come back to see him. And she said, I didn't like what you said at the time, but I've come to realize it's exactly what I needed to hear. So, you could say that if you wanted to get rid of someone for a few years, but better not. Just be careful. So be careful even when someone asks. And most of the time, people aren't asking. If you think someone is asking, they aren't. I think what you mean is no. Even if they say, I'm asking, cautiously. Because people can be sensitive. How do we know? Because we can be too. It applies very much to us as well. I'm going to tell you something. I've had a few people say that to me. I think it was my karma back for having said it to others. This is something you need to hear. One person, I was driving in the car with them. They were bringing me up to a certain place at Ananda village, and I was talking and sharing with them during the car, and I could sense something was wrong because they were talking less and less and less, and it was just becoming, yeah, mm-hmm. And then even those stopped. But I thought maybe I just haven't found the right thing yet, so let's keep trying. And so when we got to the base of this long road up to the meditation retreat, instead of turning left, the car stopped. And the person said, I'm going to let you out here, not because I don't feel like driving to the top of the road, but because you could use the walk. And I think he was right. So the thing is, we have to watch out for the attack of Maya when it comes to us to make us small, separate from God, negative. Anything that any thought that says you're no good for any reason is of the devil. It's of the darkness, working again through the ego. It starts out by saying, you're so good, you're so great, and when that doesn't work, it says, okay, you're so terrible. Both are ego. An exaggerated greatness than all other people is ego. An exaggerated worseness, worse than all other people, is just the same ego. The extreme. Everyone is where they are. We all are. We only can take the next step forward. And this comes in very subtle ways. You didn't meditate today. That makes you evil. No. And the solution to that is not to feel guilty. Yeah, I know, but I feel bad. Doesn't that count? It doesn't count. There's no reason to feel bad. Just, even if that thought comes to you in the middle of the day, just sit and meditate right then. Do a few kriyas. Say, I dedicate these kriyas to burning off this negativity, to burning off this self-preoccupation. How am I doing? Am I doing well enough? I'm sure I'm not. Just burn it. Because on the one level, none of us are doing well enough until we're in God. And don't say, yeah. No, say, yeah. That's right. That's what I want. Meaning nobody else is doing all that great either until they're in God. And when they get in God, then great. We all win because on earth there is one more saint. And let's join hands and go together. If you're feeling bad, call someone up who you know is sad and try to cheer them up. You see, we just get the focus off of ourselves. This is what I'm talking about on the sattvic or the spiritual or the mental level. This is how it comes. Anything that can separate us. Swamiji went through a period where he doubted Master. This is in the New Path and also in the Answer movie. And he again said it was the darkness coming. But at the time, he actually did see it. He said, I felt like this God and Satan were trying to, had me in the middle, and we're trying to hit each other, but we're striking me in the process. And Master confirmed this when Swamiji came out of that seclusion. He said, Satan has been testing the organization. Swamiji had been in seclusion for 3 months. He hadn't been in touch with anybody except, food and a little note here and there, working on Master's commentaries, editing them. So when he came out, then he found out that many others had been going through a similar kind of testing. And Master said, Satan is testing the organization. This was near the end of Master's life, and it was God also saying, I want those who are strong enough to carry this message forward to go forward. But these tests don't have to be that dramatic, and in any case, they're just day to day. How do we get through them? One is we know where to reach for help. Just turn on a song of Swamiji's, watch a video of Swamiji, look at a picture of Master, meditate, do some Kriya, talk to a friend and say, can you sort of remind me of everything that we're supposed to be doing with our lives? Anything. In other words, reach for the light when in that situation. And if you can't reach for anything spiritual because it's just, no, I can't, then reach for something funny. Anything that will amuse you, that will put a smile on your face. Just, just, what is that feeling? Laughter. Who is laughing? I am. I haven't heard that sound in weeks. No, just to get the energy going again in an upward direction. It also relaxes us. That's another thing we do need to do, ironically, because tamoguna is completely relaxed. But if we're too uptight, we need to relax. Everything is in the direction of truth. Truth is in the middle, is what I'm saying. And so, another thing we can do to get through the tough times is practice during the easy times. Because it builds up the habit, it builds up the momentum. So when things are going well, thank God. Literally, talk to God, talk to Master, thank them, keep our sadhana going strong, saying these kriyas I give to you as sort of my gift back to you for all the gifts you're giving me. Stay in the flow, and when still reach for the music, the videos of Swamiji, all these things to just share in that. Use a visualization. Imagine Swamiji or Master walking with you, holding hand in hand. I mean, you can hold your hand, hold their hand. And feel that, I know these blessings are coming from you. And that momentum, as Swamiji describes also again in the same book, The New Path, that then carries us through the difficult times. It doesn't mean they're not difficult, because they have to be difficult if we're going to call them difficult times. Otherwise, it's another easy time. But we sort of have been in the practice of surrounding ourselves in that uplifting vibration, as he writes in this book. And so we keep doing it, even if we don't feel like it. There will always be battles, though. Why? Because we have limitations that we are growing beyond. And so whenever we hit one of those blocks, it's going to take effort and God's grace to get through it. And the main ingredient for getting through it is to want to. That's about it. To just say, God, I want you. God, I want love. God, I don't want to be feeling this way. But again, God, not just, I don't want to feel this way, but I have to because I'm so horrible. Listen, if you were so horrible, you wouldn't even be here. Now, I don't mean just in this room or on this path, maybe even not on this planet. There are worse planets to go to. So say, well, at least I made it to Earth. On the other hand, you can say, Earth, okay, great, but let's get to God. That's the ultimate. So just don't if there's too much thoughts of our own unworthiness, our own mistakes, our own inability, it's too many thoughts about ourselves. And someone asked this of Swamiji because he was saying, don't think about the negativity. Don't think about the things you haven't been doing. Master said, all of that belongs to the past. Forget it. And when he says it on the tape, you have to sort of turn the volume down because you might blow out your speaker. He says, forget it. I don't want to blow out our speaker. But the Swamiji was talking in that same vein, and someone said, yes, but Swamiji, I find that I also need to sometimes think about the things I'm not doing to motivate myself, to say, well, you didn't do that so well, you should do it better next time, which is a valid philosophical point. And so I think it's a delicate balance. What did she say? He said, it's a narrow pathway. I haven't gotten the right word, maybe a razor's edge. A fine line, that's what it was. It's a fine line between thinking encouraging thoughts, but then also being realistic about all these other things we have as a prod to make us grow. And Swamiji, he said, she went on and he just interrupted her and said, what turns that fine line into a broad highway is just to stop thinking so much about ourselves. Just to focus on what we're doing, focus on helping someone else, focus on God, talking to God. How can you be unworthy of Divine Mother? If you really are unworthy of Divine Mother, it means she made something unworthy. You say, Divine Mother, you really blew it when you made this, this item. It's not possible. There's no way. There's even a popular song that said basically, God made me and God makes no mistakes. There's nothing wrong, nothing bad about me. And so that's just told that. Say, Divine Mother, as its Master said, naughty or good, I'm your child, I'm with you, I'm here for you, I love you, and just keep pushing in that direction. And then when the thoughts come again, say, I know I'm not supposed to be thinking these negative thoughts. No, don't. Just do your best to cheer up. Now, sometimes it helps to enter into these thoughts if you can't get out of them one way. Sometimes you have to take them head on and say, but that's not true. So I'm not saying never analyze, never go into it. Sometimes that works. But I would say give it about 5 minutes or less. And if it doesn't work, then just turn on the music. Get up, move, maybe cook something or something for somebody else. Share, just to get the energy moving. And then you find, what was even bothering me? I don't even remember. Or you'll hear those voices trying to swipe at you, and you just... sometimes you can use the sacred Sanskrit mantra, shut up. Not interested. Okay? So, that's why, again, this song is so perfect that we sang, because it brings in the light. I mean, that's the theme of the song. What we need is light. And so let us turn and face the dawn. God bless you.